The film opens by showing us the protagonist of this story, a dim-witted local clown reporter named Bruce, who is disgusted with his life, especially with his job, as he is always being sent to cover silly news stories like The Record for the biggest cookie in town, where he is asked to interview people who pick boogers out of their noses. He feels that if he continues this way, he won't get the promotion he desires, to be elected the new anchor of the newscast. Besides, everything is getting worse and worse for him. His hockey team keeps losing. He has a damn dog that pees all over his house, and he is always late for his job because he gets stuck in traffic. In other words, he is a complete failure. The only good thing he has going for him is his girlfriend Grace, a beautiful kindergarten teacher who is always there for him. To try to vindicate himself, the unhappy Bruce asks his boss to give him a chance to show his worth. So he is sent to do a live report for the Central News. When he arrives on location, he is once again ridiculed for having a hideous hat placed on his head and being made to interview all ladies. In fact, the humiliation does not end there because before going on the air, he hears how the news anchor position is being given to his partner Eben, whom he hates because he is his great nemesis. Very upset by the news, he begins to insult everyone, especially his colleagues, and ends up totally unhinged in front of the cameras. As expected, the channel kicked him in the ass and threw him to the street. But this loser's bad luck still persists, because after being thrown out like a dog, he tries to help a homeless man who is being harassed by some bullies in LA, causing the thugs to end up beating him up and destroying his car. Back at home, the complainer starts cursing God, complaining that he didn't listen to him and blaming him for all his problems, which causes a heated argument with his wife because she was a person who believed in God. She tries to make him see the good in life. Bruce is in toxic mode, so he doesn't want to listen to anything and leaves the house. While driving, he prays to the bossy man upstairs to help him change his life, but the useless guy gets into an accident and crashes into a light pole, and that increases his anger against the Lord. Suddenly, he begins to notice that in this pager, there were repeated messages from a phone number, and as the next morning, the annoying device continued calling him. The nerd decides to get rid of it, throwing it into the street. However, despite its almost complete destruction, inexplicably, the crap was still ringing. He then decides to call the number on the message, and it is answered by a voice that summons him to a mysterious building. Upon arrival, he meets a veteran janitor who sends him to the 7th floor, where he again encounters this character who introduces himself as the Almighty, the creator of heaven and earth, better known to all as God. At first, Bruce thinks that this old man is crazy, but God proves to him that it is really him when he enlarges 2 fingers on Bruce's hand. God called Bruce because he was tired of his complaints and was indignant that this wretch had said that God didn't do a good job. That's why from now on, he will give him all his powers and all his responsibilities to see if he can do his job better than him. Bruce, a little scared, runs out of the place because he thinks it was all a hoax. But then he experiences some strange events that make him think that he is God. For example, he could make objects appear out of nowhere, and divide the soup as Moses did the sea. At the same time, he receives another visit from the creator of the universe, who tells him that from now on, he would leave him as his replacement and that Bruce can use his powers with 2 conditions. He could not tell anyone that he has his abilities, nor could he alter people's free will. Thus, instead of using his gifts for important things, the filthy pig starts lifting women's dresses and then does various stupid things like bursting a water intake and taking revenge on the gang members who beat him, pulling a monkey out of the ass of one of them. He also abuses of his powers for his own benefit, exciting his sweetheart and taking off his clothes. He also gets his dog to pee in the toilet and then gets his job back, where he takes advantage of being the new Almighty to cause accidents and get exclusive news, such as the fall of a meteorite. And in this way, he manages to take the driver's job from his enemy Evan, and obviously took advantage of the moment to humiliate him. And when everything seemed to be going great, things get complicated again for this unhappy man, because he keeps hearing multiple voices in his head that end up driving him crazy. At that moment, the true God appears and explains to him that those voices are actually prayers from the people asking for help, and that helping them is part of his obligations, having accepted the task of being the supreme ruler of the universe. Consequently, Bruce creates a kind of celestial email which allows him to receive and answer the pleas without them echoing in his big head, but the number is so large that the slacker ends up getting tired of answering them and programs the machine to automatically answer all the prayers with a yes. With the prayer problem apparently solved, Bruce attends a party organized in his honor since he had become a very famous reporter. And while he repeatedly calls Grace to attend the celebration, he is seduced by his sensual co-worker, who does not hesitate to make out with him. There he is discovered by his girlfriend, who upon witnessing such a betrayal ends up leaving him. Bruce desperately tries to get her back, using all his divine abilities, but he does not succeed. Because remember, one of the rules for using his powers is not to alter people's free will. On the other hand, the consequences of the abusive handling of the powers of this false god begin to emerge. For example, the fall of the meteorite that he had crashed to have an exclusive story causes a good part of the town to be without electricity, which in turn generates a paranoia of the arrival of the apocalypse in several of the inhabitants. In addition, there is a great annoyance among thousands of citizens who won the lottery thanks to their help, since there are so many winners. The prize was $19 for each one, which causes multiple disturbances, leaving the city in chaos. Everything happens while Bruce debuts as a new anchor, and upon leaving and seeing the disaster he caused, he realizes that being the creator of the universe is not as easy as he thought, so he goes in search of the true Almighty. Both meet in the building where they first met, and after some advice from the Celestial Man, who by way of a lesson makes Bruce mop the floor, and the incompetent reporter understands that he did everything wrong, and tries to recompose the situation. Therefore, he resolves to stop thinking only of himself, to help others, and even avoid appealing to his gifts. So first, he gives up the driver's job, giving it back to his rival and congratulating him. Then, he sets about answering prayers responsibly, and more importantly, he trains the pissing dog to pee where it belongs for once. Then, Bruce learns from his ex-sister-in-law that Grace prays for him every night, so he decides to snoop through her prayers and watches her suffer because of him. Then the luckless reporter starts wandering desperately in the rain and has no better idea than to get down on his knees in the middle of the road, begging God to deliver him from this divine curse and allow him to return to his old life. And of course, the only thing he gets is to be run over by a truck that sends him straight to heaven. Once up there, he talks again with God, who suggests that he pray for what really matters to him. He then asks for his girlfriend to be happy and find someone who loves her as she deserves. After seeing this selfless gesture, the true Almighty sees that Bruce has truly changed and returns him to Earth. Back in the world of the living, Bruce wakes up in the hospital, where he meets Grace again, and after a romantic scene, the lovebirds reconcile. And the movie ends by showing us as Bruce regained his old life and is now engaged to his beautiful girlfriend, and works as a reporter of irrelevant news that didn't long matter to him, because he has everything that really makes him happy. The end.